We are in Senior English A this morning, and our objective now is to address Macbeth 3:1, Act 3, Scene 1. Let's review. In the second act of Macbeth, we have the killing of Duncan. We will see him no more. Macbeth and Lady Macbeth have conspired to kill the old man in their own house. Unfortunately, they didn't think through their project very well, and they left the bodyguards alive. Macbeth had to kill the bodyguards, and in the process of doing so, Malcolm and Donalbain, the two sons of Duncan, will elect to run away instead of stay and figure out who has murdered their father. Malcolm going to England, Donalbain going to Ireland. So they separate. They literally go to two different physical locations. We're now ready to begin Act 3, and I want to point out that this is a play about a man. Now, I know some of you are going to go, dude, we already know that. The title of the play is Macbeth. Nope. Many have argued this isn't a play about Macbeth as much as it's a play about a man. That is to say, back to that theme of manhood. Now, I want to point out something that Shakespeare does intentionally, but we're going to miss it unless I point it out to you. I'll let you flip back because for some of you, you won't be able to remember because this is your first introduction to the play, or maybe second. And to that degree, you know, this for you is you haven't spent enough time with it. But I'll ask to see how closely you were paying attention. Who speaks first in Act 2, Scene 1 of Macbeth? Banquo speaks first. Who speaks first in 3:1 of Macbeth? Banquo. All right. Now, there's some importance here for us. I'm going to reserve the reasons why Macbeth is going to be a play about Banquo in many ways. It's a play about a man. A play about Banquo, but I'm going to reserve that information until a little bit later, and we'll be talking about it. Let's go ahead now and take a look at page 374 is where you should be. I'm in 3:1.
Thou hast it now. King, Cawdor, Glamis, all as the weird women promised, and I fear thou playedst most foully for't. Yet it was said it should not stand in thy posterity, but that myself should be the root and father of many kings. If there come truth from them, as upon thee, Macbeth, their speeches shine, why, by the verities on thee made good, may they not be my oracles as well, and set me up in hope, but ask no more.
Here's our chief guest.
If he had been forgotten, it had been as a gap in our great feast, and all thing unbecoming.
Tonight we hold a solemn supper, sir, and I'll request your presence.
Let your highness command upon me, to the which my duties are with the most indissoluble tie forever knit.
Ride you this afternoon?
Aye, my good lord.
We should have else desired your good advice, which still hath been both grave and prosperous in this day's council. But we'll take tomorrow. Is't far you ride?
Oh, as far, my lord, as will fill up the time twixt this and supper. Go not my horse the better, I must become a borrower of the night for a dark hour or twain.
Fail not our feast.
My lord, I will not.
We hear our bloody cousins are bestowed in England and in Ireland, not confessing their cruel parricide, filling their hearers with strange invention. But of that tomorrow, when therewithal we shall have cause of state craving us jointly. Hie you to horse, adieu, till you return at night. Goes fiance with you?
Aye, my good lord. Our time does call upon us.
I wish your horses swift and sure of foot, and so I do commend you to their backs. Farewell. Let every man be master of his time till 7 at night. To make society the sweeter welcome, we will keep ourselves till supper time alone. While then, God be with you. Sirrah, a word with you. Attend those men our pleasure.
They are, my lord, without the palace gate.
Bring them before us.
To be thus is nothing,
but to be safely thus. Our fears in Banquo stick deep, and in his royalty of nature reigns that which would be feared. 'Tis much he dares, and to that dauntless temper of his mind he hath a wisdom that doth guide his valor to act in safety. There is none but he whose being I do fear, and unto him my genius is rebuked, as it is said Mark Antony's was by Caesar. He chid the sisters when first they put the name of king upon me, and bade them speak to him. Then, prophet-like, they hailed him father to a line of kings. Upon my head they placed a fruitless crown, and put a barren sceptre in my gripe, thence to be wrenched with an unlineal hand, no son of mine succeeding. If it be so, for Banquo's issue have I filed my mind. For them the gracious Duncan have I murdered. Put rankers in the vessel of my peace only for them, and mine eternal jewel given to the common enemy of man to make them kings, the seed of Banquo kings. Rather than so, come fate into the list and champion me to the utterance.
Who's there? Ah, go to the door and stay there till we call. Was it not yesterday we spoke together?
It was, so please your highness.
Well then, now have you considered of my speeches? Know that it was he in the times past which held you so under fortune, which you thought had been our innocent self. This I made good to you in our last conference. Passed in probation with you how you were born in hand, how crossed, the instruments who wrought with them, and all things else that might to half a soul and to a notion crazed say, thus did Banquo.
You made it known to us?
I did so, and went further, which is now our point of second meeting. Do you find your patience so predominant in your nature that you can let this go? Are you so gospelled to pray for this good man and for his issue, whose heavy hand hath bowed you to the grave and beggared yours forever?
We are men, my liege.
In the catalogue you go for men, as hounds and greyhounds, mongrels, spaniels, curs, choughs, water-rugs, and demi-wolves are clept all by the name of dogs. The valued file distinguishes the swift, the slow, the subtle, the housekeeper, the hunter, every one according to the gift which bounteous nature hath in him closed, whereby he does receive particular addition from the bill that writes them all alike. And so of men. Now, if you have a station in the file, not in the worst rank of manhood, say it, and I will put that business in your bosoms whose execution takes your enemy off, grapples you to the heart and love of us, who wear our health but sickly in his life, which in his death were perfect.
I am one, my liege, whom the vile blows and buffets of the world hath so incensed that I am reckless what I do to spite the world.
And I another, so weary with disasters, tugged with fortune, that I would set my life on any chance to mend it or be rid on't.
Both of you know Banquo was your enemy.
True, my lord.
So is he mine. And in such bloody distance that every minute of his being thrust against my nearest of life. And though I could with bare-faced power sweep him from my sight and bid my will avouch it, yet I must not, for certain friends that are both his and mine, whose loves I may not drop, but wail his fall, who I myself struck down. And thence it is that I to your assistance do make love, masking the business from the common eye for sundry weighty reasons.
We shall, my lord, perform what you command us.
Though our lives...
Your spirit shines through you. Within this hour at most, I will advise you where to plant yourselves, acquaint you with a perfect spy of the time, the moment on't, for it must be done tonight, and something from the palace. Always thought that I require a clearness, and with him, to leave no rubs nor botches in the work,
Fleance, his son, that keeps him company, whose absence is no less material to me than is his father's, must embrace the fate of that dark hour.
Resolve yourselves apart, I'll come to you anon.
We are resolved, my lord.
I'll call upon you straight. Abide within.
It is concluded. Banquo, thy soul's flight, if it find heaven, must find it out tonight.
Let's review. Banquo will come on stage alone. This will be his first soliloquy. Banquo now, of course, pointing out what is bloody obvious to an audience. It gets dark at night. Yeah, Macbeth got to be king, but I wonder how Banquo thinks about it since he was there to hear those prophecies. Look what he says. Thou hast it now. Thou means what? What's the pronoun for what? You, right. You have it now. Who's he talking about? He's talking about his pal Macbeth. Remember, these guys are best friends. King, Cawdor, Glamis. Do you find it interesting that there's a reversal of the order? Did you see that? When the prophecies were given, what were the prophecies order? Glamis, Cawdor, king. Notice the reversal here, beginning with what it is that he is. He's now a king, right? Thou hast it now. All as the weird women promised. In other words, what? I'm teaching you how to read this stuff. What's he say? It came true. The prophecies came true. And yet, I fear thou playest most. Now, some of you will say, whoa, whoa, whoa. Is he doing this kind of thing intentionally? What thing? What word am I pointing out now that Banquo uses? The word foul. Why am I pointing out that word? Fair is foul and foul is fair. Hover through the fog and filthy air. See, some of you are going to say, okay, did he like sit down and open writing, open the third act in the first scene, and he has Banquo speaking, and he says, I'm going to use the same word I used at the opening in 1-1 of... Not, see... some of this you have to argue is not intentional. It's just genius. It's the work of genius. Okay, he's playing a game with his audience. Fair is foul and foul is... Wait a minute, what Banquo just say? You got it. You're now a king, and yet I fear thou playest most foully for it means what? Yeah, he suspects his own pal of killing Duncan. Why would that be kind of a freaky position to be in if you're Banquo? Think about it. Right. He's now become the king. He's got all the power. There's only one other person that knows about the prophecies, and it's the one speaking. But that's not where Banquo goes, because he trusts Macbeth's friendship. That's not where he goes. Look where he does go, though. And yet I fear thou playest most foully for it. Yet, keep reading with me. I'm teaching you how to read this stuff. I'm on page 374. Yet it was said... it should stand not in thy posterity. In other words, but Banquo is the one who is given the prophecy about having sons who will be kings, not Macbeth. It's Banquo who's given that prophecy. Notice he says, but that myself should be the root and father of many kings. If there comes truth from them, as upon thee, Macbeth, their speeches shine, why by the verities of thee made good may they not be my oracles as well, and set me up in hope? Now I realize this is not our language, it's English, but it's not our language. It's a Renaissance English, isn't it? And so you have to go back and look at the poetry of what it is that Banquo just said. Once you see it though, you go, oh, I totally get what he's saying. What is he saying? Can anybody put it in own words to figure out?
Is he like asking like why his sons are...
He says, whoa, whoa, whoa. If the witches prophesied Macbeth would become king, and he did, and they prophesied that I would have sons who would be king, whoa, maybe my sons will be king. Wow. Macbeth, or Banquo, a little bit excited, but then look what he says next. And it says a lot about his character. It tells us a lot about who he is. Look what he says next. But hush, no more. What does that mean? And put in your notes what that tells you about this guy. He has the capacity, what would you say, Mr. Durant? But hush, no more, he says. He has the capacity of what? What character trait does he possess that Macbeth does not possess? Wow, I love it. That's a great word, and that's a great way to think about Banquo. He has temperance, to speak in the Platonic virtues. He has self-control. Mr. Nelson, sometimes we'll even use the word discipline. Banquo has or possesses a discipline that Macbeth does not have. See, think about it. You're a kid. You're in 7th grade. You walk into the Blairs. You got no money, but you're hungry. You're with your pal. Your pal says, I'm hungry. I'm going to go ahead and grab something, put it inside of my jacket, and walk out. Now, here's the problem for you. You know you could do it too and get away with it. It's like, dude, it's only a few bucks. Who cares? And they make lots of money anyway in this place. You could do it. You're watching your pal, in fact, do it, right? You're aware that you could do it. And you get ready to do it because you are hungry. And you get ready. And then all of a sudden, for some reason, see, this is Banquo. You say, hush, no more. And you show restraint. You don't do it. Outside in the parking lot as you're walking away, your pal takes out whatever it is that he stole. And he looks at you and says, dude, what is wrong with you? See, the Macbeth character can't understand discipline. He can do it, so he does it. Then afterwards, for example, when the police pull in to the parking lot and pull up next to both of you and say, I need to see the receipt for paying for that. I just got a phone call from Blair's. The Macbeth person goes, oh, crap. See, you do it, and then afterwards you go, oh. The Banquo character goes, awfully glad I didn't do that. See you, pal. Enjoy what it looks like from the inside of the police station. I didn't take anything. I'm free and clear. That's Banquo. Notice Shakespeare's genius. It's not that Banquo doesn't want to steal something from Blair's. He wants it. He wants it just as bad as the other guy. It's not a matter of desiring. What is it a matter of? Write it in your notes then. It's not a matter of desiring. Clearly, Banquo would like to have the power, just like Macbeth would like to have the power. His sons to be kings would be nice for Banquo. He wouldn't have to stand out on the battlements in the nighttime and defend the castle. He could go to bed the way kings do. He wants the power, but he has a certain level of restraint, of discipline. Shakespeare will call this being a man. Banquo, while he does die, he will die with honor, knowing full well he showed restraint, but hush, no more. This is why we read the plays and not just watch the plays. Because a little line like hush, no more, notice I've just spent 10 minutes on these lines, and yet all of a sudden it kind of opens up the play. And you begin to realize that Macbeth becomes a character type, a certain type of character, a certain type of personality. Of course, after Hush No More, look at Shakespeare's sense of timing is genius. Look what happens. Who walks on stage? Brutal. Brutal. Macbeth walks on stage. He says, hey, hey, hey. You going for a ride later today? Yeah. Banquo. Yeah. You going alone? Macbeth. You going alone? Banquo. No. I'm going to take my boy, Fleance, with me. Oh, okay. And it slowly starts to dawn on the audience. No way. It's one thing. It's right. It's one thing to kill. It's one thing to kill a king, right? To get power, but to jack your very closest best friend, and let's not finish, and his son. Wait a minute. Why would Macbeth want to kill Fleance, Banquo's boy? He was there when he heard the prophecies of the witches that said, "You won't be a king, but your sons will be king." We're not making all this up. Shakespeare wants us to understand this. In fact, on page 376, Macbeth will say as much in his soliloquy of 3:1. We call it the soliloquy to be thus is nothing but to be safely thus. Soliloquy. Take a look at it. Macbeth now completely alone. And look what he says. To be thus is nothing but to be safely thus. I'm on 376, right at the bottom of the page there. 376, I apologize, I should have given you more aid there. 376, line 48. To be thus is nothing, but to be safely thus. What does that mean? Put it in your own words. What does he mean? I'm a king, but what? I'm not safe yet. Why is he not safe? See, this is the problem with killing people. The problem with killing people is that it's really hard to stop. Because if anyone knows, then you got to tell about it. right? See how that works? And so you got the potential of discovery. Of course, there's the other side of this. Look what he says. Our fears in Banquo stick deep. And in his, wow, look what he says about his own best friend. In his royalty of nature reigns that which would be feared. Royalty of nature. Hush, no more. See, this is the interesting thing about peer pressure. Once you analyze it, you understand it. The reason why your pal needs you to steal something from Blair's with him or her is because if you say no, and she does it, or he does it, now all of a sudden, there's a conflict in the mind of the one who steals it about you. Because you didn't steal, and she did steal, he knows something about you that could get you in trouble. He could narc if he wanted. He could tell. He could turn you in. That's one thing. No, dude, he's my closest friend. He would never do that. That's fine. But what about the second thing? He didn't take it. You did, he didn't. Why didn't he take it? Now all of a sudden it starts to work on the mind. What, you think you're better than me? What, you think you're... See how that works? Peer pressure, analyze it. It's genius what Shakespeare shows us. Peer pressure works because of fear. I don't want to be made fun of, so I'll do it. I don't want you to think I think I'm better, so I'll do it. But notice how it works the reverse. If I need to talk you into doing something I know you don't want to do, one way to do that is to ask the simple question, what, you think you're better than me? What, you think you're better than me? Notice Macbeth will actually say it out loud. Banquo is better than me. Royalty of nature. We saw it, now we're hearing it. Hush no more. Macbeth will go on. 'Tis much he dares, and to the dauntless temper of his mind he hath a wisdom that doth guide his valor to act in safety. He's a better man than me. That's what he's saying. He's a better man than me. He's not stupid enough to lower himself to steal from Blair's. I did it. And now it's done. See, that's the terrible thing about acts that you commit that are immoral acts. Once they're done, they're done. You can't go back and undo them. You can't pretend like they weren't done. So all you can do is try to rationalize your way out of it. Notice what Macbeth says next. He's going to say he killed Duncan for Banquo's sake. Watch this. It's an amazing way. He literally can talk himself into killing his own best friend. In the end, he's going to talk himself into killing his best friend for his best friend's good. Yeah, it's completely counterintuitive, and yeah, that's the way it works, right? So, for example, you got a villain who's going to say, "Oh no, I really care for my best friend. That's why I have to kill him." Take a look. 'Tis much he dares, and to that dauntless temper of his mind, he hath a wisdom that doth guide his valor to act in safety. There is none but he whose being I do fear. He fears Banquo because Banquo didn't steal from Blair's. He didn't do it. See, think about that. The minute you go to the party but don't engage in immoral acts, you become suspect. That's why you have to go to the party and participate. If you don't, you're somehow, what, you think you're better than me? What, you think you're better than us? See how that works? And then the other guy begins to fear you in some way. What, you think you're better than us? What's up with that? See how that works? That's the twist of this. Macbeth is convincing himself Banquo gets what he deserves. Watch. There is none but he whose being I do fear, and under him my genius is rebuked. He says, I'm so smart, but under Banquo, I'm not smart anymore. He thinks he's smarter than me. That's why he did. That's why he's a man and I'm not. And it's said Mark Antony was by Caesar. It's interesting that Mark Antony and Caesar would be mentioned here, right? Given that Caesar, of course, J.C. is a play of Shakespeare's. Look what he says. He, chid, that means asks. He asked the sisters when first they put the name of king upon me and bid them speak to him. Uh-oh. Banquo's going to get what he deserves. He should have kept his mouth shut. When the three witches were there and I got my prophecies, he should have kept his mouth shut. He didn't. He asked, what about my future? What about my future? So they told him his future. Now I got to kill him. It's his mistake. It's not my mistake, it's his mistake. He shouldn't have asked the 3 witches. He asked the 3 witches. He gets what he deserves. He shouldn't have asked. Which in a twisted kind of logic makes sense. Banquo could have just said, I don't believe in witches and their prophecies. I ain't saying nothing. That's not what he did. He asked, what about me? What about me? And he got told. And Macbeth heard. Then prophet-like they hailed him father to a line of kings. Look at top of 377. Upon my head they placed a fruitless crown. Why fruitless? Why fruitless? He ain't going to have no sons. Banquo's going to have the sons who become kings, not Macbeth. And put a barren scepter in my hand. A scepter is what you hold to show you're a king. Thence to be wrenched with an unlineal hand, no son of mine succeeding. I'm not going to have a son who becomes king. If it be so, for Banquo's issue have I filed my mind. Are you looking at this? He literally twists his mind into saying, Macbeth said, into saying, I didn't kill Duncan for my own sake. I killed Duncan for Banquo's sake. I killed Duncan because of Banquo. It's totally Banquo's fault. Banquo's got to pay. I got to kill Banquo. Right. Now we have a tendency to say that, don't we? But here's the problem with calling Macbeth a psycho. He seems to be totally in control at this moment. We can call him a psycho when he's grabbing for an invisible knife. We have a tendency to call him psychotic then. But here, this is cool, cold rationality. It says, I'm going to have to jack him. Think of it this way. You and your pal are at Blair's. Back to my word picture. I like to use it this way. And your pal takes the stuff and you don't. You walk out of Blair's, you leave. See you later. I don't want to have anything to do with it. You do what you had to do. I'm not going to narc on you or anything, but you go away. Your pal lies in bed that night and says, he was there. He could turn me in. He could turn me in and I could get in serious trouble. It's his fault I took it. He could have told me not to. He didn't tell me not to. He just let me do it. I'm going to have to make sure that he never tells on me, which means I got to jack him. See how that works? See how that works? What, and of course, if you were talking to him, you'd say, whoa, 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 whoa. You both were in Blair's. You made your choice. He made his choice. No, that's not the way it worked. That's not the way it worked. I was there. I made my choice because he didn't tell me not to. He didn't tell me not to, and he didn't participate either, which makes him capable of turning me in. If he turns me in, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble. I can't get in trouble. I'm going to have to jack him. Strange logic. And yet, on stage, we'll watch the mind of a serial killer. See, this is what happens when you ask somebody and they kill 13 people. Like, why? Well, I don't know, because 12 wasn't enough. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. See, this is kind of the way it works, right? Where you begin to ask questions, that type of thing. All of a sudden, are you ready for this? All of a sudden, out of the soliloquy will come the cutthroats, the murderers. Macbeth is already planning the murder of his best friend. Jot down in your notes at 3:1, how is Macbeth already evolving as a murderer? He doesn't kill his best friend.
He has people do it for him.
Got me? He's now become the Godfather. He's now become a guy. He doesn't kill people. He brings in a hitman or two, and that's exactly what he does. Are you ready for this? He brings in these two murderer guys, and he says, yesterday we were talking about that man Banquo. He is not a good man, Banquo. Did I tell you about this to you two guys? That the reason you got fired from your job is because of him. And they say, yeah. Well, this is my question. Macbeth says to these two guys, this is my question. Are you men? And they're like, what do you mean? Yeah, we're men. No. It's kind of like dogs. A poodle is a dog and a pit bull is a dog. They're both dogs, but there ain't but one of them that's a real dog. What kind of dog are you? To which both of the murderers say, dude, we'll do anything to prove we're pit bulls. Macbeth, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. This is what I need you to do. I need you to kill Banquo. Now, here's the deal, he says. I would do it myself, but I'm kind of the king, and I can't have blood on my hands. So I need you to go out and take care of the business. Will you do it? And they're like, yeah, sure, we'll do it. Anything for you. You're the king. Whoa. Point out in your notes How is Macbeth already changing in his role with Lady Macbeth? Write it down. How do you see a change already happening? Yeah, right. Earlier it was Lady Macbeth who was doing all the scheming, right? Remember, it was Macbeth who told his wife, we'll go no further in this. We're done. And Lady Macbeth was like, what are you talking about? This is how we're going to do it. This is the plan. Notice now it's Macbeth putting together the plan. His plan is to tell two guys, he calls them cutthroats. Before they were called fish, Shakespeare invented this word. That is to say, they're assassins. They're going to kill him. They're going to go out on the side of the road. They're going to kill Banquo, Macbeth's best friend, and Banquo's boy Fleance. They're going to slit both of their throats. Going to kill them both. Right. And this thing Chris Nicholas just did of, whoa. I mean, it's one thing if you got to kill Banquo. But to follow my metaphor, when the guy who stole from Blair says, uh-oh, he's got to get Jack because he was there too, it would be like saying, he's got to get Jack, but I also got to jack his mom and dad. Yeah, I got to definitely jack his mom and dad. Because his mom and dad are going to be in the house, so I got to have to jack them too. And besides that, he didn't tell me I shouldn't do it. It's his mistake. He had his chance. He blew it. You, of course, if you're the law enforcement official that arrests this kid and you're having this conversation, you're like, that doesn't make any sense. And yet, in Macbeth's mind, it's already a done deal. From this point on in the play, interesting just side note, from this point on in the play, pretty much every time you see Macbeth, he comes onto the stage, he's got a drink in his hand. I'm talking alcohol. What's significant about that?
Trying to get rid of his conscience.
He's trying to stay inebriated so he doesn't have to look face to face with what it is that he's done. Question, do you think it's going to work? No, it's not going to work. Macbeth is not going to be able to run away from the, are you ready for this? The murders that he will say later are sticking on his hands. It's an interesting word picture because blood, when it starts to coagulate and dry on the hands, is sticky. For anyone that's ever gutted an animal, for example, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a powerful word picture here for Macbeth, okay? The other thing that we will say about Macbeth's costuming is that crown never seems to fit quite right. He's always kind of pushing it back up onto the top of his head. It's a little too big, the crown, just a little too big. And his robe doesn't quite fit it, okay? Now, we began Act 3 with Macbeth pointing out he is not done. Okay, to be thus is nothing but to be safely thus. Our fears in who? Banquo stick deep. Yeah, and so he's going to let these two guys do it for him. And now I'm on 379. We will find on 379 a very brief soliloquy by Lady Macbeth. So 3-2, you want to put this in your notes. 3-2 is important because we're going to get a brief picture into Lady Macbeth's psychic state. How good is she handling this whole thing of killing the king and her husband has become king? Well, let's take a look at it. She will say, when she's totally alone on stage for a brief soliloquy on page 379, this is 3-2, line 5 or so. Take a look at it. She says, "Naught's had, all's spent, where our desire is got without content." Now that is interesting. We'll want to summarize what she just said in our notes. Can you put it in your own notes? What is it she just said? Naught's had, all's spent, where our desire is got without content. What does it mean to be contented? You're happy, you're pleased with what you've got. What does it mean to say, naught's had, all's spent? This is that line I was working with earlier, right? She got what she wanted, power. She lost what she had. What would you say she lost? What does she say that she lost? What's her word? Contentment. Yeah, so what does this tell you about Lady Macbeth and her status as now being the Queen of Scotland? Yay, I got to be Queen of Scotland. She says it means, wow, let's let her finish with the word picture here. "'Tis safer to be that which we destroy." Whoa, who's that? She says, Duncan is safer than I am. What is the problem with killing a king and becoming a king? Think about this for a moment. What's the one problem with doing that? How did you get to become king? You had to kill somebody. What's the problem with doing that and becoming king and then going to bed at night when you lay down to go to sleep? Right. Why every time you lay down you shut your eyes? See, this is the problem with all bullies. Think about this for a moment. The problem with being a bully and speaking badly about someone and hurting them or whatever is that you are forever having to look over your shoulder, metaphorically speaking. How come? Right. If you can be mean to other people and hurt their reputation and be mean to them, physically abuse them, however it is it works, you obviously know if I can get away with it, right? This is the problem with being a good liar. The better a liar you are, the more worried you are, because you know you can fool other people. There's got to be other people out there in the world who can fool you, and you never can trust. Lady Macbeth will say this exact thing right here. She says, I cannot sleep. I cannot be content. It's better to be Duncan, which is to say, it's better to be dead. Nought's had all spent, where our desires got without content. 'Tis safer to be that which we destroy, than by destruction dwell in, look what she calls her joy, doubtful joy. In other words, she got what she wanted, but she's got nothing of what she had. And where is the joy? Gone. Now, let's point it out for your notes. Shakespeare writes these plays to entertain, no doubt. No doubt. But he also writes these plays to teach us something. Sometimes we think we want something, we go and we get that something, and then we find ourselves not always so happy with what we got. Macbeth will come on stage. Macbeth and Lady Macbeth will have an interesting conversation, where ultimately, I'm on page 380, where ultimately he has to confide to Lady Macbeth, we've scorched the steak, not killed it, will be a line he will use later. That is to say, he is not in a good place either. So let's point out right away, Macbeth and Lady Macbeth both share in common what? Discontentment, psychological discontentment. Notice Lady Macbeth will say on page 380, come on, gentle, my lord, sleek o'er your rugged looks. I'm at line 26. Tell me what this means. Sleek o'er your rugged looks. Be bright and jovial among your guests tonight. Dude, this is before the big party, right? And Lady Macbeth will tell her husband, sleek o'er your rugged looks. What does that mean? Right, she's back to this thing. Look, your face is giving it all away. You clearly do not look like a man who is happy to be king. You need to make sure you're faking it some more. Look at what Macbeth will say at line 35. One of the greater word pictures Shakespeare ever invented. He imagines, some of us have had this feeling when we, for example, are working with guilty conscience or whatever. He imagines that his head has been sawn, the cap of his brain taken off, and someone drops live scorpions onto his brain and then puts the skull back on and sews him up. My mind, he says, is full of scorpions. It's a powerful word picture. It'll also remind us that when Macbeth killed Duncan, what did he swear that he heard the house whisper? Macbeth hath murdered what? Sleep. I'll not sleep ever again. And sure enough, this is what's happening. From a psychological perspective, Macbeth is suffering from what we would call sleep deprivation. He hasn't been sleeping, and because he hasn't been sleeping and he's already been given to a little bit of this hallucination stuff, he's starting to lose it. He mentally, let's say it this way, he mentally is breaking down, all right? We will then finish with Macbeth saying, you know, it's all right. It's all going to be fine. And he calls his wife his dearest Chuck, which is an interesting kind of phrase. And of course, Lady Macbeth gets for a second an insight that Macbeth is about to do something really nasty. She has no clue what's going on. Notice how now Macbeth's the guy wearing the pants in the family in terms of murder, right? Before it was Lady Macbeth saying, we got to do this and this and this. Now it's notice completely changed. All right, here we go. 3-2.
Is Banquo gone from court?
Aye, madam, but returns again tonight.
Say to the king I would attend his leisure for a few words.
Madam, I will.
Naught's had all spent, where our desire is got without content. 'Tis safer to be that which we destroy, and by destruction dwell in doubtful joy. How now, my lord, why do you keep alone? Of sorriest fancies your companions making, using those thoughts which should indeed have died with them they think on. Things without all remedy should be without regard. What's done is done.
We've scotched the snake, not killed it. She'll close and be herself, whilst our poor malice remains in danger of her former tooth. But let the frame of things disjoint, both the worlds suffer, ere we will eat our meal in fear, and sleep in the affliction of these terrible dreams that shake us nightly. Better be with the dead, whom we to gain our peace have sent to peace, than on the torture of the mind to lie in restless ecstasy. Duncan's in his grave. After life's fitful fever, he sleeps well. Treason has done his worst. Nor steel, nor poison, malice domestic, foreign levy, nothing can touch him further.
Come on, gentle my lord. Sleek o'er your rugged looks. Be bright and jovial among your guests tonight.
So shall I, love. And so I pray be you. Let your remembrance apply to Banquo. Present him eminence both with eye and tongue. Unsafe the while that we must lave our honours in these flattering streams, and make our faces vizards to our hearts, disguising what they are.
You must leave this.
Oh, full of scorpions is my mind, dear wife. Thou knowest that Banquo in his fleance lives.
But in them nature's copy's not etern.
There's comfort yet. They are assailable. Then be thou jocund. Ere the bat hath flown his cloistered flight, ere to black Hecate's summons the shard-born beetle with his drowsy hums hath rung night's yawning peal, there shall be done a deed of dreadful note.
What's to be done?
Be innocent of the knowledge, dearest Chuck, till thou applaud the deed. Come, sealing night, scarf up the tender eye of pitiful day, and with thy bloody and invisible hand cancel and tear to pieces that great bond which keeps me pale. Light thickens, and the crow makes wing to the rooky wood. Good things of day begin to droop and drowse, whiles night's black agents to their praise do rouse. Thou marvelst at my words, but hold thee still. Things bad begun make strong themselves by ill. So, prithee, go with me.
What? Go back over that again? I need to understand that strange psychological twist. Well, things are really bad, but don't worry, they're going to get better because I'm going to make them worse. That's exactly what he said. Go back, look at it one more time. There's dark irony here. Macbeth says, don't worry, things are looking bad, but I know they're going to get better because I'm going to make things worse. And then we're all going to be fine. Now, of course, the audience knows what's he talking about. Well, yeah, all you got to do is skip across to the next page and realize that 3-3, what's going to happen in 3-3? Macbeth's going to make sure his best friend gets his throat cut. In fact, we're going to be told they stab him over 20 times to make sure that he really is jacked. Whoa! But before we get to the murder of his best friend, Macbeth says, don't worry, I'm going to make everything better by making it worse. Fair is foul, and foul is fair. He says, I'd like to sleep, but I can't sleep because my mind is full of scorpions. He says it's better to be Duncan. Notice that both Lady Macbeth and Macbeth will both say, it'd be a lot better if I was just dead. Now, the curse is, I can't sleep, he says. And because I can't sleep, I find myself constantly, my mind is working. Any of us that have ever been in a situation where we couldn't sleep at night, we will report, this is rough. Sleep deprivation, am I right about this, Mr. Keeley? It can begin to affect you, where you can't sleep, you wake up in the middle of the night, you can't go back to sleep. Some of us have been in moments of stress where we can't rest or whatever, and we find ourselves, once you can't sleep, you wake up in the morning from just a really brief bit of sleeping, and then all of a sudden you got to go through your whole day. Of course, you try and stay awake during your day and you keep nodding off. Then all of a sudden, in the one moment when you should be able to sleep at night, all of a sudden everything wakes up in your brain, and your brain starts thinking, and then you can't sleep. And you're like, tell yourself, knock it off, or I'm going to stop this. And of course, to say I'm not going to think about X is the one thing that you're doing. You're thinking about X, whatever X is. I'm not going to think about X. I'm not going to think about X. I'm not going to think about X. Stop thinking about X. And it's like over and over, just kind of what we call in psychological terms, you start looping. Your mind starts looping. It's like a CD that gets stuck, right? And you can't get off of it. And you think you're off of it, and then you come back to it again. Then you're off of it, and then you come back to it. Over a period of time, this can really start to affect you. What is it Macbeth is really probably most jacked about, do you think? You think it's the murder of Duncan. What else could it be? Think about what else could it be. Notice she says, the first thing she says to him when he comes on stage is, you need to stop being so alone. Why do you think he's spending so much time alone now?
He's going to kill his best friend.
See, this is the thing. Some of you will say killing Duncan is what's really jacking with him. Others of you will say, that's one thing. But to kill the very best friend you got, we're not done. Wait a minute. He's not just going to kill Banquo. What's his goal? He's a child killer as well. He's not only going to kill his best friend, he's going to kill his best friend's son, Fleance. Some of you will argue, as bad as it is to kill Duncan, that's probably a worse crime. To not only kill your best friend, but kill your best friend's young boy, that is like the lowest of the low. I use that term intentionally, the lowest of the low. In other words, we start high with Macbeth as a character, but by this point already, we're starting to see, you can't get much lower, but guess what? We will. What? No, we will. We'll get lower. By Act 4, Scene 2, you can put it at 3A. By Act 4, Scene 2, we will actually be lower than we are right here, and we're pretty low. In other words, this is a play where right about the moment the audience thinks it can't get any worse, it always gets worse, okay? And the audience watches then a man who is a really, really evil bad guy. But he didn't start out that way. He didn't start out that way at all. All right, let's go to how you kill somebody on stage in Shakespeare's world, shall we? Let's talk about murder on stage. This is always an intriguing question when we watch movies, isn't it? Now, right now at 3A, you could jot down a movie that for you is the most graphic representation of murder you've ever seen. For some of you, it's somebody getting blown away by a bullet or a shell or something like that, right? For others of you, it's physical, cutting somebody, stabbing somebody. For others of you, it's some of the torture scenes that you've watched in a film or whatever. Shakespeare, let's point out, Shakespeare is fighting an uphill battle to show killing on stage. We don't see it very often on stage. All right, here we go. We've already had Duncan killed, but notice it wasn't shown. Now we are going to get to an actual murder on stage. And the way we're going to do it is quite provocative. First of all, we're going to have the two assassins joined by a third party. Now, some will argue this could be Macbeth himself. Others will argue that Macbeth has sent a third assassin just to make sure it's going to happen. Then you're going to have, this is a very brief scene. It only lasts on stage for about 2 minutes. That's it. Banquo will come on stage with his boy Fleance. He will say, it looks like it's going to rain tonight. Then the assassins will say, let it come down, and they jump on top of him, and they start stabbing him over and over again. In the process of stabbing Duncan, or Banquo, the fire that he's holding, because it's what time of the day? Night. Drops. And in the darkness, right, Fleance gets away. So Fleance, the boy, will not be killed. Banquo will be killed. Notice the irony. They're trying to kill him at night. We would normally think the light going out would be a bad thing, but it's ironic. The light going out saves Fleance's life. The young boy is able to escape. And then at the end of this brief scene, we realize that Banquo's final words will continue with what we call our flight theme. Banquo will say to his boy, fly, Fleance, fly, which of course has some nice alliterative quality to it as well with all of those F sounds, right? Fly, Fleance, fly. All right, here we go. Brief, real brief scene.
But who did bid thee join with us?
Macbeth.
He needs not our mistrust, since he delivers our offices and what we have to do to the direction just. Then stand with us. The west yet glimmers with some streaks of day. Now spurs the lated traveller apace to gain the timely inn, and near approaches the subject of our watch. Hark! I hear horses.
Give us a light there! Oh!
Then 'tis he. The rest that are within the note of expectation already are in the court. His horses go about almost a mile, but he does usually so all men do. From hence to the palace gate make it their walk. A light! A light! 'Tis he. Stand out.
It will be rain tonight.
Let it come down!
Treachery! Oh, fly, good Fleance! Fly! 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 Thou mayst revenge! Oh, slay!
Who did strike out the light?
Was not the way?
There's but one down. The sun is fled.
We have lost best half of our affair.
Well, let's away and see how much is done.
All right, so we've got now the killing of Banquo. Jot down in your notes real quickly. What do you find interesting about this scene? Although it is brief, you've got the way Shakespeare would often do this is on one side of the stage you have the assassins, on the other side of the stage you have Banquo. The audience recognizes that while the talking is going on by the assassins, Banquo can't hear it. In other words, psst, there. And Banquo and his boy are kind of like, yuckty, 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 walking across the stage. They completely do not have a clue what's about to happen. The audience already knows Banquo's about to get jacked. Now, wait a minute, Mr. Durant, what is Shakespeare's pulling off here? What do we call that in a movie? When you know something's going to jump out and get the person, but it doesn't happen. And then it doesn't happen. And then it doesn't happen.
Bam!
Right. And then about the moment that you go, well, I guess it's not wham, that's when it happens, right? Good movie makers are always playing that game, aren't they? Like, for example, how many times in a scary movie, when the girl's walking through the room all by herself, does the kitty cat jump out and scare the poop out of her?
A lot.
So that everybody goes, ah! Right? So that later... Right? See how that works? You got it. So let's point out for your notes. Shakespeare invents the idea of suspense. This is Shakespeare. When you go to movies today and you watch that kind of escalation slow, so notice what happens. Watch the genius crafting of this brief scene. So first of all, you get the two assassins, and they show up. And they ask the third guy, what are you doing here? You don't need to be here. We'll take care of the business. And the third assassin says, don't worry about it, I'm here anyway. Then on the other side of the stage, you see Banquo walking. You know Banquo is going to get jumped. So they're walking, talking. Hey, somebody give me some light. I need to, hey, it looks like it's going to rain tonight. And then the assassins jump out, let it come down. Of course, as they say it, bam, they start jacking. And then, of course, you got to talk this out so the audience understands what's going on, because these plays were not performed at nighttime. They were performed when there was light outside. So anytime there's night, you have to say it. And anytime there's darkness, you have to say it. And so the speaking here is, the lights all went out. And in the process of the lights going out, young Fleance is able to get away. But wait a minute, there's the R word. Some of you put that in your notes and some of you didn't. Let's put it in our notes. Banquo uses the R word. What R word? You got it. This play will become a play of revenge. And the audience is going to want to know about that revenge thing. What's significant about the fact that Fleance will get away? What was the prophecy made to Banquo? You're right. You're not going to be a king, but your sons will be kings, which means that what? Fleance has to get away if Banquo's boys are going to be kings. Notice Banquo will not be a king because he just got jacked. But his boy Fleance is going to get away, which is a prediction. Uh-oh. What's interesting about this, already you can predict. How's Macbeth going to respond when he hears Fleance got away? Right. He's going to be in the oh crap moment, huh? Oh, no. Because it's not enough to kill Banquo. In fact, truthfully, it's not Banquo he really needed killed. Who was it that he really needed killed? He really needed killed Banquo's boy, right? Fleance. Now that he knows Fleance got away, the potentiality of the prophecy coming true for Banquo is even more enhanced. All right, let's set up 1-4 now, or 3-4 now. I want to go to 3 in your notes. I want to go to 3A real quickly. Comparison of texts, and I want to point out that in both Hamlet as well as Macbeth, we will have the instantiation of the apparition, the ghost. Okay, Shakespeare can use this idea because people of his day genuinely believed in ghosts. And ghosts really freaked out Shakespeare's audience. And so Banquo is going to come on to the stage. One of the reasons you like to go and watch this performance is to find out how will they do this scene. For your notes, there's 2 ways to do this scene. Okay? 2 ways to do this scene. One way is to bring Banquo, the actor, on stage with a knife sticking out of his head, or with blood all over his face, or with these really bad gash marks all over him. Blood coming down. When you watch the Roman Polanski film version, you'll see that they make Banquo look like he just got bludgeoned with a bat about 40 times. I mean, he looks bad, okay? That's one way to do it. But Mr. Keeley, another interesting way to do it that I've seen is to have no Banquo ghost apparent. Like you can see it. You clearly know Macbeth is freaked out. And you clearly know that he's seeing something. And you then are put in the same position as those guys that are sitting around the table at the party. But there's actually no character there. It's an empty seat that Macbeth sees as a filled seat. Do you got me? And then you get to kind of decide which one of those 2 things work. I mean, for example, if a good actor's playing Macbeth, he can freak out an audience by himself being freaked out. He can totally do that. And in so doing, the audience then begins to use the imagination. Lady Macbeth figures it out. Let's just call it what it is. Scene 4 of Act 3. Lady Macbeth finally figures it out. Now I'm going to use another 3A observation. In some ways, Lady Macbeth plays Dr. Frankenstein. How do you understand me saying this? Lady Macbeth plays Dr. Frankenstein. She created a monster. And in Act 3, Scene 4, she finally realizes it. It's the oh crap moment. It's the I created something, just like Frankenstein, I cannot control it. And now Lady Macbeth will begin to see as the broken woman. She's already had not had all spent. Right? Remember, she's already seen things didn't go according to plan. But now she realizes that her man has gone over the edge. We will know how far Macbeth has gone over the edge by the end of 3-4. At the very end of the scene, Macbeth will say that he's not done. That there's more killing left to be done. He's killed Duncan. He's killed Banquo. He's tried to kill Fleance, Banquo's son. Now he will point his laser on Macduff. And we're on page 386, and Macbeth will say, I hear it, by the way, talking about Macduff, but I will send, I'm going to figure out what's going on with Macduff. Why isn't Macduff at my party? He's already suspecting Macduff. There's not a one of them, but in his house I keep a servant feed. What does that mean? What does that mean? I've got a spy in every house. Macbeth is unable to relax, right, around the people that he's spending time with. Why? Because he's a criminal. And this is the terrible thing about criminals. They never can relax because they're always afraid somebody's going to do to them what they obviously plan to do to other people. Keep reading. I will tomorrow, and betimes I will, to the weird sisters. At the end of this scene, Macbeth decides, I got to go back to the witches. How is that different from the way he met the witches the first time? Beautiful, Frank. That's right. They came to him in the first moment. Now he's going to seek them out. I got to go. Why do you think he's going to go to the witches? Why does he need to go back to the witches? What is Macbeth interested in? What is it about the future he's most concerned about, given the screw-up of his plan? Fleance got away. So obviously what he really wants to know is, what? Am I safe? Yeah, am I safe? As a king, am I safe? Or I got to worry about this Fleance kid growing up to take over the kingdom. Keep reading. More shall they speak, for now, wow, look at this. This tells you everything you need to know about the downfall of Macbeth. I'm reading on page 386, line roughly 133 or so. For now I am bent to know by the worst means the worst. Put it in your own words. What's he say? I am bent to know by the worst means the worst. Meaning what? From the Weird Sisters he says, I want to know the worst that can happen to me, and the way I got to do that is the worst thing imaginable, going to witches. It's kind of like selling your soul to the devil. He says, I'm willing to do that. Keep reading. You'll see just how far he's gone. For mine own good, all causes shall give way. Now, Mr. Durant, we have a vocab word here that comes from the ancient Greek mythologies. We call this narcissism. Are you familiar with the phrase narcissism? A narcissist is someone who what? Are you familiar with that word? What is a narcissist? Only cares about himself or herself. Did you see what Macbeth just said? Now this is the king speaking. For my own good, all I care about is what? What's he say? Interestingly, who's he saying this to? The woman he's supposedly in love with. He doesn't even include her in the matrix anymore. The only thing that matters is me. I want to know what's going to happen to me. He has become completely egocentric. All he cares about, narcissistic. All he cares about is himself. Wait a minute, we're not done. If that was all that it was, he would be like one or two high school boys. All I care about is myself, right? But it's way worse than that. Keep reading what he says next. For mine own good all causes shall give way. This is a brutal word picture. I am in blood, steeped in so far, that should I wade no more, returning were as tedious as go o'er. He's imagining himself standing in what? Blood. But not just any blood. How much blood? A river of blood. He's standing in the Bighorn River, and he's gone of blood. And he says he's so far out into the river that going back out of the river would mean what in regards to killing and murder? Right, to say, okay, dude, I'm going to stop. He says, I'm so far into the river that going back is just as difficult as getting to the other side. There's no point in stopping now. Dude, we start jacking people. I mean, really? What's the difference between killing 30 people and killing 3 people? Macbeth says bloody little. No pun intended with the bloody. Right? Bloody little. I mean, once you start killing people, what's the difference? Right? 3, 4, 40, 400, 4,000, 4 million. Dude, wait a minute. What is the point he's making about his soul? It's over. It's over. It's over. In other words, I've done enough that I know where I'm going to be in regards to Dante's Inferno. Do you understand the point? Macbeth is aware his soul is damned. But he says, No point in stopping now. I've already started jacking people. I'm standing in a river of blood. No point in going backwards. You can't undo it. Hello, it's not like you can, dig Duncan out of the ground and say, hey, dude, just kidding. You know that whole thing about the knife in the skull? It's just a joke. Oh, Banquio, welcome back, dude. No, you can't undo some things. So instead of saying, sorry, I should get help, he says, I'm just going to keep killing. Who does he say this to?
His wife.
Right? He says this to his own wife. Who's the one who said, Mr. Keeley likes to remind us, look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. Your face, my fame, is as a book where men may read strange matters. Remember? A little water cleanses us of the deed. Infirm of purpose, she called him. Woo. Infirm of purpose? You wimp. That's what she called him. He says, now, I'm into this killing thing. I'm starting to get good at it. I'm gonna go talk to those witches and figure out what's going on. By the way, where was Macduff? He wasn't at our... By the way, we know when we investigate mass murderers, we know this is exactly the way they think. Their thinking is different from normal people's thinking. Their view is, really? What's the difference between killing 3 people and killing 30 people? You see it as a difference in number. But if you're thinking about losing your soul, that is to say, acting in such a way that you have so much guilt you can't come back from it, think about it. After you've killed 3, it's done. Right? You might as well just go ahead and keep doing it. Is Macbeth lost entirely? Or can you imagine that he could come back? Look at what he says next. Strange things, as if we don't have this as a guess. Strange things I have in head that will to hand. Put it in your own words. I got all kinds of creative ways to bung people. Oh man, that's what I do at night. I sit up at night thinking about the ways I'm going to get to jack guys. And Macduff is next in line. Look what he says next. Which, look what he says, must be acted ere they may be scanned. What does that mean? I don't want to think about it. No thinking. I'm just going to what? I'm just going to do it. Whatever comes to my brain, that's what I'm going to do. Lady Macbeth, interestingly, she does not get it. In the same way that Frankenstein originally didn't get it. That he had created this monster and then he had a serious problem. Look what she says, top of page 388. You lack the season of all natures. Sleep. What is Lady Macbeth's solution to this problem?
Just go.
You need to go to bed. You need a nap. That's your problem. You just need a nap. If you go to sleep, you're gonna be so much better when you wake up. Really? I mean, you talk about major deniability going on here. She's aware that he killed Duncan. She's aware that he killed 2 bodyguards. She's aware that he killed Banquo and tried to kill Fleance. Let's call it 4.5 murders because you got to factor in the intentionality part of it. And she says to him, she's aware he's going to now try and jack Macduff, who, by the way, is the #1 stud warrior in all of Scotland. And her one comment is, you just need a nap. That's your problem. You just need a nap. We in psychological terms, we call these enablers, don't we? What's an enabler? An enabler is an individual who does not call out the individual, but says, oh, you poor thing, you need a nap. That's your problem. Dude, we're at the end of a scene where Macbeth just saw ghosts. And she thinks he needs a nap. Of course, we know he ain't going to get no nap because he can't what? And why can't he sleep? He's got a guilty conscience. Whoa, wait a minute. Does he have a conscience? Does Macbeth feel guilty for what he's done? There's always hope. As long as you feel guilt, there's hope. Because that means you feel sorry for what you did. Which means there's coming back. Macbeth feels guilt, but not enough to want to change. Keeley might say, I don't know how much guilt he feels. He feels anxiety or fear. That's why he's going to go back to the witches. Why? Because he wants to hold on to his power. It's got nothing to do with feeling bad about killing those people. Macbeth will say, yeah, sure, sleep, yeah. Take a look at what he says. Come, yeah, right, we'll sleep. There's all kinds of interesting kind of sexual undertones here. Yeah, you're right. Let's just go make love. We'll fake that. That'll solve everything. My strange and self-abuse, interesting, self-abuse, is the initiate fear that wants hard use. We are yet but young indeed. Whoa. Cruz says that is seriously messed up. What does that mean? We are yet but young indeed? Amsbach just shakes his head. He's like, man, you're right. This is one wicked play. This guy that Shakespeare creates, what has he just said? Yeah. I need a little sleep so when I get up, I got a little more energy so I can do what? Find more creative ways to bung people. You're absolutely right. Let's go get some sleep. Of course, the audience will be looking at whose face when he says that? Because they ain't but two people on stage. Lady Macbeth, who's looking at her man going, whoa, I call this guy a wimp? I'm the one that challenged him with that whole manhood thing. You don't have the set to be able to do what you got to do. Whoa. Don't seem to have a problem with masculinity now, do we? Little bit of testosterone release going on here. Lady Macbeth's got no ability to control this cat. She helped create him, Keely's right. And now, he's on autopilot. Whatever comes to my brain, that's what I'm going to do. I don't like the way you look, I'm going to jack you. It does not matter. And don't talk about anything about fairness involved in it, because the only thing that's fair is for my own good. All causes shall give way. Brutal. All right, let's listen to this. It's a fun scene.
You know your own degrees. Sit down. At first and last, a hearty welcome.
Thanks, Your Majesty.
Our self will mingle with society and play the humble host. Our hostess keeps her state, but in best time we will require her welcome.
Pronounce it for me, sir, to all our friends, for my heart speaks they are welcome.
See, they encounter thee with their heart's thanks. Both sides are even. Here I'll sit in the midst. Be large in mirth, and on we'll drink a measure the table round.
There's blood upon thy face.
'Tis Banquo, sir.
'Tis better thee without than he within. Is he dispatched?
My lord, his throat is cut, but I did for him.
Thou art the best of the cutthroats. Yet he's good that did the like for Fleance. If thou didst it, thou art the nonpareil.
Most royal sir, Fleance is scaped.
Then comes my fit again. I had else been perfect, whole as the marble, founded as the rock, as broad and general as the casing air. But now I'm cabined, cribbed, confined, bound into saucy doubts and fears. But Banquo's safe.
Aye, my good lord, safe in a ditch he bides, with 20 trenched gashes in his head, the least a death to nature.
Thanks for that. There the grown serpent lies. The worm that's fled hath nature that in time will venom breed. No teeth for the present. Get thee gone. Tomorrow we'll hear ourselves again.
Aye, my lord.
My royal lord, you do not give the cheer. The feast is sold, that is not often vouched while 'tis a making 'tis given with welcome. To feed were best at home. From thence the sauce to meat is ceremony. Meeting were bare without it.
Sweet remembrance, sir. Now, good digestion wait on appetite, and health on both.
May it please your highness, sit.
Here had we now our country's honor roofed with the graced person of our Banquo present, whom may I rather challenge for unkindness than pity for mischance.
His absence, sir, lays blame upon his promise. Please your highness to grace us with your royal company.
The table's full.
Here is a place reserved, sir.
Where?
Here, my good lord. What is that moves your highness?
Which of you have done this?
What, my good lord?
Thou canst not say I did it!
Never shake thy gory locks at me!
Gentlemen, rise. His Highness is not well.
Sit, worthy friends. My lord is often thus and hath been from his youth. Pray you keep seat. The fit is momentary, upon a thought he will again be well. If much you note him, you shall offend him and extend his passion. Feed and regard him not. Are you a man?
Aye, and a bold one that dare look on that which might appall the devil.
Oh, proper stuff. This is the very painting of your fear. This is the air-drawn dagger which you said led you to Duncan. Oh, these flaws and starts, impostors to true fear, would well become a woman's story at a winter's fire authorized by her granddad. Shame itself, why do you make such faces? When all's done, you look but on a stool.
Prithee, see there. Behold, look, lo, how say you? Why, what care I? If thou canst nod, speak too. If charnel houses and our graves must send those that we bury back, our monument shall be the moors of kites!
Art quite unmanned in folly?
If I stand here, I saw him.
Why, for shame.
Blood hath been shed ere now, in the olden time, ere humane statute purged the gentle wheel. Aye, and since, too, murders have been performed too terrible for the ear. The time has been that when the brains were out, the man would die, and there an end. But now they rise again with 20 mortal murders on their crowns and push us from our stools. This is more strange than such a murder is.
My worthy lord, your noble friends do lack you.
I do forget. Do not muse at me, my most worthy friends. I have a strange infirmity, which is nothing to those that know me. Come, love and health to all, then I'll sit down. Give me some wine. Fill full. I drink to the general joy of the whole table, and to our dear friend Banquo, whom we miss. Would he were here! To all and him we thirst, and all to all.
Our duties and the pledge.
Avaunt and quit my sight! Let the earth hide thee! Thy bones are marrowless, thy blood is cold. Thou hast no speculation in those eyes which thou dost glare with.
Think of this, good peers, but as a thing of custom 'tis no honour. Only it spoils the pleasure of the time.
What man dare? I dare! Approach thou like the rugged Russian bear, the armed rhinoceros, or the Hyrcan tiger. Take any shape but that, and my firm nerve shall never tremble, or be alive again, and dare me to the desert with thy sword. If trembling I inhabit then, protest me the baby of a girl. Hence, horrible shadow, unreal mockery, hence! Why so? Being gone, I am a man again. Pray you, sit still.
You have displaced the mirth, broke the good meeting with most admired disorder.
Can such things be, and overcome us like a summer's cloud without our special wonder? You make me strange even to the disposition that I owe, when now I think you can behold such sights and keep the natural ruby of your cheeks when mine is blanched with fear.
What sights, my lord?
I pray you speak not. He grows worse and worse. Question enrages him. At once, good night. Stand not upon the order of your going, but go at once.
Good night, and better health attend his majesty.
A kind good night to all.
It will have blood, they say. Blood will have blood. Stones have been known to move, and trees to speak. Augurs and understood relations have by maggot pies and choughs and rooks brought forth the secrets man of blood. What is the night?
Almost at odds with morning, which is which.
How sayest thou that Macbeth denies his person at our great bidding?
Did you send to him, sir?
I hear it by the way. But I will send... There's not a one of them, but in his house I keep a servant feed. I will tomorrow, and betimes I will, to the weird sisters. More shall they speak, for now I am bent to know by the worst means the worst. For mine own good all causes shall give way. I am in blood stepped in so far, that should I wade no more, returning were as tedious as go o'er. Strange things I have in head that will to hand, which must be acted ere they may be scanned.
You lack the season of all natures. Sleep.
Come, we'll to sleep. My strange and self-abuse is the initiate fear that wants hard use. We are yet but young indeed.
Brutal. Jot down real quickly in your notes, what do you find the best part of this scene? Is it for you when Macbeth kind of starts to lose it with the ghost showing up? Is it for you when Lady Macbeth steps in and says, don't worry, he's fine, and all the other people are like, your husband's a complete whack job. No, he's been like this all his life. Do you find the compelling moment at the end of the scene when Macbeth will say, blood will have blood, they say? What does that mean? Blood will have blood, they say. Right. In the end, that's it. In the end, everything comes full circle. You can kill somebody, but sooner or later, you got to live with your actions. Metaphorically speaking, symbolically speaking, blood will have blood. It all comes full circle. All right, let's go now quickly to this next scene. It's a fascinating one. We are in we're in 3:5 now. I'm with you on page 388. This is a real brief scene, but let's go ahead and talk it through real quickly. There is some debate. I'm with you on page 388. There is some debate about whether Shakespeare actually wrote this scene. There is some debate that maybe this scene gets thrown in to the play after Shakespeare's death, and then later when the folios are collected, this scene stays in. One of the things I want you to write down in your notes is, why would anybody assume that? How does the language of this scene sound different from other language? We're going to be back to the witches. Only here we're going to have another witch we have not met in the play. Her name is Hecate. Hecate is the queen witch. She shows up and she's just a little bit torqued because these witches have been playing this game with Macbeth's head and she wasn't involved. I need to be involved, she says. But what's most interesting is what her prediction of Macbeth will be at the bottom of page 388. Look what she says about Macbeth. He, Macbeth, you see it, line 30, bottom of page 388. He shall spurn fate. That means he won't care about the future. Scorn death. That means he doesn't think he can die. And bear his hopes above wisdom. That means he will have expectations of the future that are completely insane about holding on to his power. Grace and fear. And you all know, she says to the other witches, security is mortal's chiefest enemy. Now the word security you got to put in your notes because it doesn't just mean our word to be safe. What she means when she uses the word security is the Elizabethan word of overconfidence or pride. She says the number one way you want to take a guy down, the number one way to do it is by playing on his pride. His belief that he is fine, he is safe. All right, here we go. Let's listen now to this scene. Again, some of you will say, this is a little bit different scene, sounding-wise, than anyone we've heard before in this play, which is kind of true.
Why, how now, Hecate? You look angry. Have I not reason, beldams as you are, saucy and overbold? How did you dare to trade and traffic with Macbeth in riddles and affairs of death? And I, the mistress of your charms, the close contriver of all harms, was never called to bear my part or show the glory of our art. And which is worse, all you have done has been but for a wayward son, spiteful and wrathful, who, as others do, loves for his own ends, not for you. But make amends now, get you gone, and at the pit of Acheron, meet me in the morning. Thither he will come to know his destiny. Your vessels and your spells provide, your charms and everything beside. I'm for the air. This night I'll spend unto a dismal and a fatal end. Great business must be wrought ere noon. Upon the corner of the moon there hangs a vaporous drop profound. I'll catch it ere it come to ground, and that distilled by magic sleights shall raise such artificial sprites as by the strength of their illusion shall draw him on to his confusion. He shall spurn fate, scorn death, and bear his hopes above wisdom, grace, and fear. And you all know security is mortal's chiefest enemy. Come away! Come away! Hark, I am called. My little spirit, see, sits in a foggy cloud and stays for me. Oh, come away! I come.
Come, let's make haste. She'll soon be back again.
Later we're going to hear these same witches say this. By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. Witches use blood to make their spells, prick their thumbs. The witches will say, by the pricking of my thumb, something wicked this way comes. Macbeth in this play becomes more wicked, nasty than any witch imaginable.
My former speeches have but hit your thoughts which can interpret farther. Only, I say, things have been strangely born. The gracious Duncan was pitied of Macbeth. Marry, he was dead. And the right valiant Banquo walked too late, whom you may say, if it please you, Fleance killed, for Fleance fled. Men must not walk too late. Who cannot want the thought how monstrous it was for Malcolm and for Donalbain to kill their gracious father? Damned fact, how it did grieve Macbeth. Did he not straight in pious rage the two delinquents tear that were the slaves of drink and thralls of sleep? Was not that nobly done? Aye, and wisely too, for 'twould have angered any heart alive to hear the man deny it. So that I say he has borne all things well, and I do think that had he Duncan's sons under his key, as an't please heaven he shall not, they should find what 'twere to kill a father, so should Fleance. But peace, for from broad words, and 'cause he failed his presence at the tyrant's feast, I hear Macduff lives in disgrace. Sir, can you tell where he bestows himself?
The son of Duncan, from whom this tyrant holds the due of birth, lives in the English court, and is received of the most pious Edward with such grace that the malevolence of fortune nothing takes from his high respect. Thither Macduff is gone, to pray the holy king upon his aid to wake Northumberland and warlike Seward, that by the help of these, with him above to ratify the work, we may again give to our tables meat, sleep to our nights, free from our feasts and banquets bloody knives, do faithful homage, and receive free honors, all which we pine for now. And this report hath so exasperate the king, that he prepares for some attempt of war.
Sent he to Macduff?
He did, and with an absolute, sir, not I, the cloudy messenger turns me his back and hums, as who should say, you'll rue the time that cloaks me with this answer.
And that well might advise him to a caution to hold what distance his wisdom can provide.
Aye.
Some holy angel fly to the court of England and unfold his message ere he come, that a swift blessing may soon return to this our suffering country under a hand accursed.
I'll send my prayers with him.